Stewart A. Swordlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swordlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the very middle of September 2016.
And we just finished up a huge 7-day September Spectacular, and it was incredible.
It was spectacular, and I will remind you that September Spectacular initials are SS, just like my own.
So does that mean Stewart Spectacular?
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
It's the same.
It was a great seminar, but we did work very, very diligently for 7 days straight, and of course many months before that in preparation to make it so spectacular. So we didn't have a chance to prepare a lot of news stories today.
No, but I will just say off the top that a lot of information has come through in the last couple of days on the news. For example, we have the bombings in New York City, New Jersey, and then the stabbings at the mall in Minnesota. Now, the interesting thing is that according to the authorities, the bombings in New York and New Jersey were not from international terrorists, but from someone who just wanted to cause trouble. Well, how do they know that if they don't know who did it? That's my question. And it's also interesting that it comes a couple of days after the United States bombed Syrian military outside of Damascus and killed 83 people by accident when they were surrounded by ISIS troops and the government of the United States attacked the Syrian troops. And the Russians brought that to everybody's attention that really, whose side are the Americans on? So that was an interesting bit of news.
There's always interesting things. September is an interesting month simply because we have 9/11. Going into October, we're also going to find more interesting information as well, politically and globally. So, especially as we heat up with the elections here in the U.S. So, speaking of the elections, I did pull together a few things which I found especially interesting that I wanted to talk about. And one was that Donald Trump said Clinton's bodyguards should disarm.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, he said because she's so much against the Second Amendment in his opinion, he said, let's see what happens to her. She's very much against the Second Amendment. She wants to destroy your Second Amendment. Guns, 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 right? I think what we should do is, she goes around with armed bodyguards like you have never seen before. I think that her bodyguards should drop all weapons. They should disarm, right? Right? I think they should disarm immediately. What do you think, he said, pointing to the audience.
That's a typical Trump rant.
Mm-hmm.
However, people are saying they're accusing him of telling people to kill Hillary or shoot her because he wants the bodyguards to disarm themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But he very quickly yesterday changed that statement and said that it's absolutely not what he meant.
And what's interesting is apparently now they have appointments this month for debates, or dates set, let's say. But I'm curious to know if that will even happen. Apparently the first 2016 presidential debate is scheduled for Monday, September 26th at Hofstra University in New York. The second
That's
one,
all on the island.
Yep, the second one for October 9th, and the third and final one is October 19th. So interesting dates. So let's see if Hillary even makes it in light of all her illness talk that's going around.
I understand she's still coughing.
Yeah, well, if she has pneumonia, it's not going to go away
So
overnight.
if she has pneumonia, she should be walking around, right?
That's right, she should be
So
in the hospital
that
for a
seems
while.
like she might have something else, not pneumonia.
Well, speaking of that, there is, according to this article, a bizarre conspiracy theory that she is actually now a body double, and it's not even the real Hillary that's
It's
out
not a
there.
conspiracy because you could see that there's someone else that's taking her place occasionally who is nothing like her.
So all that's interesting, and now they're also asking, this is the question you and I have discussed, what would happen if a U.S. presidential candidate drops out?
Oh, has that ever happened?
Well, apparently not. So it says that it's not exactly a U.S. Constitution issue, it becomes an issue for the nominating party. So for example, the Democratic Party bylaw states that if that a candidate is unable to finish a political race, then Article 2, Section 7 of their bylaw states that, quote, a special meeting to fill a vacancy on the national ticket shall be held on the call of the chairperson, unquote. Now, they are claiming that even though Clinton is expected to make a full recovery from a routine illness, they are floating names of people who could become the next presidential candidate if something happens to her. For example, they're saying that her running mate Tim Kaine, which we have talked about, would be a choice. Bernie Sanders, and then current Vice President Joe Biden,
Oh,
even
no.
they're talking about, yeah.
Why don't you just pick Bozo or Kim Jong-un?
David Lublin, a professor of government at American University, said that Democratic Party officials could actually choose anyone that they want who meets the criteria to serve in the nation's highest office. And then he says, quote, it would certainly be uncharted territory, unquote.
I think they should ask me.
I thought that was interesting. And then, going on, kind of following on the heels of what you were talking about, that there's Egyptian state media claiming that 9/11 and attacks in Europe were not carried out by Islamists, but by Western intelligence agencies who want to, quote, justify the war on terror.
Oh.
The article suggests that the attacks were carried out to justify persecution of Muslims, and the Egyptian state media said ISIS operatives in the videos could be Western actors because they were much taller
Right.
than what the Egyptian or the ISIS terrorists
Yes, but
are.
it also could be that they looked taller because it was a manufactured video. There wasn't any people in it.
That's
They just,
possible.
put things together artificially
Yeah.
with technology.
Now this was interesting because apparently 2 weeks after expanding a national monument in the Pacific Ocean, Obama is now announcing a new national monument in the Atlantic
In
Ocean.
the ocean?
In the
We're just
ocean.
gonna drop something in the water.
Apparently there's, this is going to be the first monument in the Atlantic. It's going to be called Northeast Canyons and Seamont's Marine National Monument. And this is a preservation area about the size of the state of Connecticut, about 130 miles off Cape Cod's coast, and it will be off limits to commercial fishing. So this makes me wonder what they're going to be doing out there.
Yeah, no, I'll translate. There's a new underwater base there, and you can't go near it.
So apparently that's the New England seafood industry is up in arms about it, obviously, because commercial fishermen have 60 days to stop their operations. However, they're still going to allow red crab and lobster fishing,
Oh, thank God.
but that will have to end in 7 years.
Well, we better eat a lot of lobster and crab in the next
Fast.
7 years.
And then did you hear this one? Obama's telling a gala that the a gala, G-A-L-A.
Uh-huh.
It's like a party.
Oh, a gala.
Gala.
Well, maybe where you're from. It's a gala.
Tells at the gala that the only trial his administration hasn't faced are an asteroid or aliens. And so somebody said, don't jinx us. And he knocks on the podium, which, knock on wood so things won't happen. And he says, that's true, good point. I should not have mentioned the aliens.
People, that's a big clue.
That's a clue.
That's what's coming next.
Yeah, and of course, then the other thing that's out in the news a lot these days is rape, which is, of course, a horrific crime. Now, there's the former mayor of an Ohio town apparently is accused of raping a 4-year-old girl for 3 years.
Oh, my goodness.
He's been indicted on 8 counts of rape, 12 counts of attempted rape, and gross sexual imposition. And according to
That's a thing.
That's a thing. According to the court documents, the victim told this ex-mayor's wife about the sexual abuse that began when she was 4 years old and lasted for 3 years. And when the wife confronted the ex-mayor, he said, I did it. Then he also confessed to his pastor, a social worker, his brother, and sister-in-law, in documents filed by the assistant prosecutor. And then he was admitted to a psychiatric facility because he said he had feelings of suicide. Now again, he says she was a willing participant.
She's 4 years old.
Exactly. Up to the age of 7, so that's not going to happen.
Even so.
It's not going to happen that these children are willing participant, but it's a way of opening the frequency up for rape, and that to be at some point acceptable, and pedophilia. So we've been talking about this as we've been going along, and there have been times in history when all these things were legal and a part of New World religion. That's coming up.
If you read the Bible, as we talked about in our class, that there are stories in the Bible where 40 and 50-year-old men marry 9-year-old girls.
And this is the Christian Bible, not the Muslims that they parade around on television all the time, but this is in the Christian Bible.
Muhammad was, I think, 50, and he had a 9-year-old or 11-year-old wife.
It happened in all religions, so to speak. So this is nothing new, so to speak, but they're bringing it more and more into the public. So shock and I go, that's horrible. Next thing you know, as we know, the abnormal is becoming more normal, which is a shame. Now, this is interesting because scientists are trying to introduce a new epoch called the Anthropocene epoch. And this is going to be called the era that is marked by human impact on the environment. This is because of what they're claiming is rising carbon dioxide levels, numerous extinctions, and climate change. So apparently there is a group that introduced this to the International Geological Congress last week. And when this International Geo Congress meets, it could take them more than 2 years to make the decision.
2 years they need to make a decision.
But according to that, if it is accepted, then the 1950s would be used as a start date. So I thought that was interesting. And again, rewriting history in front of us, because once it's decided in 2 years from now, we'll have forgotten about this article, and probably so will everybody else, and then it'll just be like everything else, like it always existed. Then there's also a new medical breakthrough that suggests that babies are possible without the female egg.
Really?
Scientists or researchers at the University of Bath have been creating baby mice by injecting sperm into an embryo. Now, where do they get the embryo? That I don't
Well, then it
understand.
had to come from an egg.
Well, but they're saying then they trick the non-fertilized eggs into becoming embryos. So this doesn't exactly make sense,
It
but
doesn't make sense.
but the headline says that scientists suggest that babies are possible without a female egg.
No, they had to have an egg to get an embryo.
Then it said such creations typically perish within days, but adding sperm to them results in a 24% chance of full development.
So making a chimera.
In the long-term future, it could be possible to breed animals using non-egg cells and sperm, and it could have potential future applications in human fertility treatment and for breeding endangered species. And then, now have you heard of the term microaggression?
That's when I'm just a little bit hostile.
Maybe. Now, I thought this was interesting. The Clark University in Worcestershire, did I say that?
Worcester.
Worcester,
Massachusetts.
Yep, hired a chief diversity officer who's been informing freshmen on microaggressions that they should avoid. Apparently, students should not ask, for example, a black student if he plays basketball. And it says they shouldn't say you guys because then it excludes
They may be a
females.
girl.
And they can't ask Asians for help with math.
And they can't say, you get on now.
And it says
They'll
that
say that to
the
Asians.
the term microaggression was coined by Columbia professor Daryl Sue. Refers to the brief and commonplace daily verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative racial slights and insults toward people of color.
Okay, Daryl needs to go back to something because it would take a pill.
And students at Rutgers University have been advised to use language that is kind and necessary and avoid offensive terms such as retarded and that's so ghetto, so that they don't commit microaggressions.
Oh my goodness.
A bulletin board in a campus in New Brunswick, New Jersey, has put up a display titled Language Matters, Think. And so people have to question whether their choice of words is true and helpful. And last year,
They didn't know my family.
professors at the University of California were urged not to use a number of, quote, offensive phrases, such as describing America as, quote, a melting pot,
Why?
or the land of opportunity.
Why is that offensive?
I was raised with those words.
What's offensive about it?
Ask them. And then it says they're also not supposed to say there's only one race, the human race, and they're not supposed to say, I believe the most qualified person should get the job.
Why?
I'm going to tell you why. Excuse me, I'm coughing.
Well, maybe you should stop smoking all the time.
Anyway, this reminded me of Disneyland. When you go to Disneyland and they play the happy music and everybody's smiling
they
and
walk
all
like
that.
robots.
Yes, and they're all numb and they're brain dead. You can't say anything
Well,
unless
you know
it's
what?
nice.
Brain dead is an offensive term.
Yeah, I can't say that anymore. But the issue is that is exactly reminds me of programming because they're trying to put people down into a box. We can't acknowledge any differences. We're not supposed to say this, but we're supposed to do that.
Oh, please. You know, all of them. You know what? They're all retarded.
Yeah. And they
They're
might,
just offended everybody.
maybe they come from oh that's so ghetto.
I'm so sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it has to do with Disneyland type of programming. So that's my opinion. And then back to the World Trade Center. Did you hear about the photographer who captured an apparition in the beams of 9/11?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and they're saying that is an angel and that he's
Or
so
it's
special.
Jesus, they're watching over us.
Yeah, it's
How about his
Blue
Blue
Beam.
Beam project?
Blue Beam. Now this was good. This one maybe will make you happy. This
Something
is
better.
an Iceland story. And we
Yay,
love
I love
Iceland,
Iceland.
and it's about elves.
I love
And
elves.
it's about angry elves, which you should love even more.
I love angry elves.
Right. Apparently there is a problem with one of
Wait a
their
minute.
highways.
Is elves an offensive term?
That might be. But not in Iceland, so.
How about height-challenged beings?
No, because these are interdimensional beings. But what's interesting about this is because we've told you, especially if you come to our classes or have seen our paranormal things, that elves are normal and considered part of Icelandic
They're part of my world.
life. That's part of their life, it's part of their culture, and they all believe in elves. Anyway, I'm going to just start kind of backwards on the article. In 1971, which we've talked about this, elves reportedly disrupted construction of a national highway from Reykjavik to the northeast.
Reykjavik.
So the project suffered repeated unusual technical difficulties because it was claimed that the elves did not want the large boulder that served as their home to be moved to make way for the new road.
Don't move their boulder home.
So they made the road around the boulder.
Yeah.
That was back in 1971.
Good.
Now in August 2015 is when this issue started, and they just finally resolved it in Iceland.
What?
Apparently there was some kind of a mudslide, and so when the highway crew came and moved it, they accidentally buried this one rock, which was part of the elves' homes.
Oh, no.
So anyway, it says after the landslide was cleared, the road was subsequently flooded, and a colleague of this person in charge of the project who came to clear the route was injured. Then industrial machinery began to fail. A journalist who came to cover the growing chaos fell into a mud pool and had to be pulled to safety. And then the project person in charge said nobody even thought of the rock, even though the area is regarded as a sacred place in local folklore. So then the decision was made that the Iceland Road Administration would unearth the rock. They consider this an artifact which is protecting Iceland's elfin heritage, and it was subsequently removed and cleaned with a pressure washer last week, so now they're hoping that they won't have any more issues in this area.
What happens if they pressure wash the rock and all the little elves got, blown out of there?
Because they're happy their home is clean now and being respected.
And elves need a separate bathroom.
They do.
They do.
Yeah. So anyway, I just
You
thought
don't
you
want
would
elf poop in your bathroom.
you would enjoy the Iceland story, because as we've told you so many times, and people don't realize that the elves are a part of Icelandic culture, and the people there
But they're not,
believe it.
and they are a separate race because they're not part of the human race.
Thank goodness.
Right, because can't have them all under one little elf umbrella.
So I also want to introduce to you our newest book,
Woohoo!
Healing Archetypes and Symbols. This was birthed during our September Spectacular
The
class.
last day.
Has 107 color pictures in here of archetypes, and it's really incredible. We have reproducible archetypes at the back. These have a sperm and an egg, I guess, because they're
Ooh.
reproducible,
Oh.
right?
Well, you don't need an egg then.
No?
No, now I could do without
They're
it.
cloned or something?
I don't know.
But anyway, it's a magnificent book. I'm really happy with it. It is 308 pages total.
Wow.
So it's 6 by 9, and if you haven't gotten it, it's now up on the site. It will be.
I like the cover.
I love it. It's going to be on Kindle within hopefully the next 6 to 8 weeks. But you can get this directly from us. Eventually, it will be on
You know
Amazon.com.
what it sounds like? It's going to be on a Ken doll.
Kindle.
Like
Maybe
a
that's
Ken
why
doll.
they use that. And then, of course, if you don't have Hyperspace Plus yet, we released this just before this one. This one describes all about the archetypes and what they are and how to use them. This one is your advanced exercises. So you can get both of them, and I meant to bring one of my mailing envelopes with me, but I tell people if you buy just one book, to get it overseas is like $35.
Not crazy.
It's ridiculous. So if you buy 2 books, it's like $43. And if you buy 3 books, sometimes I can get 3 books in an envelope, it's like maybe $51. So it starts taking the price per book down, makes it more cost effective, because it really pains me if they buy one book, and like we sell one book that's $17, and then they pay $35 shipping and handling to get it overseas. Like, oh, if I please get more books than that to make it cost effective for you. So Healing Archetypes and Symbols, our newest book that's out. Hyperspace Plus, if you get both of them in the same envelope, overseas people, you get a better deal. And domestic people, they will charge you a little bit more as well, but it's only extra $2 or $3 here to get one if you're within the United States. So in Canada is a little bit cheaper than totally overseas, but it's
But it
not.
takes forever because they hold the mail for like 3 weeks
They
till
do.
they deliver it.
They do, even though we send priority mail.
Canada really has gone downhill.
It's very weird, right?
Really, seriously.
And then, of course, our next huge event is our January 2017 class. And people are already signing up for that if you want to come to that class.
January?
Hyperspace Oversoul, our next week-long class. And then you have to have that class if you want to be in our Oversoul Mastermind group. So if you're interested in the Oversoul Mastermind group, please talk to Patricia. She has all the prerequisites. You must take this class, okay? Then, in between, you have a lot of things going on.
I do.
What's going to happen with you?
You know,
What do you know?
I don't. I just know I gotta leave, and I'll be gone for a couple of weeks, and then I come back and leave again, and come back and leave again. And somewhere in there's my birthday, which I still haven't gotten presents, people. And,
6-0.
yeah, and then you'll be running the show all by yourself.
That's right, so you'll see me next week.
That's right.
So check out our website, expansions.com, all of our upcoming events. If you have questions, contact Patricia. Now's the time to sign up. Don't say, I wished I would have, and wish your life away. And
No.
we talked about that in our class. There's so many people at the end of their lives, they talk about what they
Yeah.
didn't do.
I wished I had sent Stewart a birthday present, and I wished I would have done,
Yeah,
and-
so don't live your life with regrets. You want to come, there's nothing stopping you but you. Oh, and this Sunday, by the time they see this, it may be too late. We're going to start our next free group blog fast.
I'm gonna miss that.
Yeah, I'm sure you're upset. And we're going to be doing this on a regular basis because it's a way to get control over your mind and then over your life, and then everything can flow better and more easily and effectively for you. My self-healing group webinars are ongoing. You can join those every month. They open up again, so come on and join us. Watch our pay-per-view. Join our memberships so you can get in on our blogs where Stewart and I communicate with you on a regular basis. And we have a lot to offer you. So, expansions.com. Looking forward to seeing you there.
All right, and I'll see you whenever I get back.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.